And joining me on the show today is Jean-Claude Nzamba, who is a native of Gabon and with degrees in agribusiness and a master's in computer science from the University of Maryland, and a political analyst for the Voice of America. He's worked on issues pertaining to human rights, democracy, and good governance as it pertains to Africa. Jean-Claude, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Look, I appreciate your time today, and it's a big deal because after the coup recently in Gabon, we're now hearing that the Commonwealth has decided to temporarily suspend or partially suspend Gabon from the Commonwealth, which had only joined in June last year. For background, can you explain what caused the coup there?
Thank you. I mean, this is a great thing that you have us having an opportunity to basically speak on behalf of Gabon. Gabon has been independent since the 1960s. This year actually marked the 63rd year of independence. And for about 56 years of that 63 years, we have the same family in power, the Bongo Ondimba family. And during the reign, especially for the last 14 years, even though we went through a few crises, war crisis, humanitarian crisis as a COVID, but even before that, human rights was actually now respected. People were being arrested for just the political views. In 2016, the headquarters of Mr. Jean-Ping was bombarded, and we have a lot of people from Gabon actually becoming political asylee in different countries from Europe, France, Germany, the United States, Canada. And in terms of the embezzlement, the corruption has been even more dire. To the point that, to the World Bank, one third of the population in Gabon is living under poverty. I mean, with only 2 million people, and Gabon is among the fourth richest country in Africa. Right? On the top four, Gabon is among them with a lot of manganese. For example, Gabon is the second producer in the world of manganese. Petroleum is the fourth producer of oil. We have diamonds, we have timber. But how can you explain that even with all that wealth, most of the people in that particular country is not benefiting from it? So in the 26th of August, there was an election. That election, the day of the election, after the vote had started, internet was cut. Internet, which is a human right according to United Nations, was cut for 4 days. What would actually allow a country that is actually talking about, hey, we're promoting human rights, to cut internet, right? So because the country or the government was trying to actually steal another time the election, but this time the people of Gabon were ready to fight for the vote. We're talking about democracy. We talk about commonwealth. Why don't we have an inclusive wealth? What is it that the people from that particular country are not benefiting from the wealth of the country? To me, we have here a dichotomy, or we have a two side to measure, when the people who actually came massively out to basically greet the people who actually did the coup, you pretty much Commonwealth is saying, hey, you know what? You people, even though you were under some type of family dictatorship for 56 years, we don't really care about what you wanted. All that's more important for us is that an election happened, even if it was rigged, just like in 2016, in 2009, we don't care. All we want is an election to be validated by a constitutional court, even though that constitutional court might actually be more abiding towards the people in government. So it was to basically prevent any killings that the army decided to put a stop, because in the country, in every corner, there was military tanks ready to tell the people, if you come out, we're going to shoot. The people also say, we know who won the election. We're not going to accept for another yet stealing of the election, and we were going to actually have some type of massacre similar but beyond what happened in 2016. So for most of the people in Gabon and outside the diaspora, we are welcoming this change. And we are kind of very saddened to see that the Commonwealth today met and came to a decision of suspending, where even other countries, including the United States, decided to say, we take note and we would like to have a transitional government put together very quickly some type of elections. And this is what we're doing. This is what the country is working on. I mean, since the coup, everywhere in the diaspora, people are working to bring suggestions, to send people that actually have learned and actually have experience in diaspora to go to the country and bring their contribution. At this point in time, political prisoners have been released, and there are opportunities for people to go to school. I mean, elementary school, conventional schools are free now. Things that could have been done during the rule of Mr. Ali Bongo.
Jean Claude, that is a really comprehensive explanation of what's going on in Gabon. And I've just got one quick follow up question for you, and that is this: how is it that what you've explained explains for the people of Gabon what they actually want? At what stage, and Africa always seems to be at the centre of these coups because people just no longer trust the institutions that are out there working for them. How is it that this goes against the rest of the world, and particularly in this situation with the Commonwealth? How do you then rationalise or explain with these institutions that are totally failing against the idea that the people, the Gabonese, are saying, hang on a second, we can do this better than any of these institutions here that are telling us how we have to live?
Well, I think this is a great question. And it comes back to a few, people, the human rights or the United Nations state that people have the right for self sovereignty. They have the right to freedom. They have the right of access to education. Usually, what happens is we have bodies of institutions making decisions, but when going to the root of the issues, they are not doing so. I mean, we're looking at a lot of youth leaving sub-Saharan Africa to trying to go to Europe and dying in the Mediterranean. All we're hearing is how we need to stop this. We need to come into some agreement with countries like Tunisia, Morocco to pretty much stop some of that. But this is not the root cause of the problem. The root cause of the problem is we have countries or autocrat government ruling countries and embezzlement and corruption and nepotism, not allowing those youth to really get hope, not allowing those youth to really have an opportunity to even dream. And all the thinking of is we could actually have a better life in Europe. So until and when I'm looking at all the measure that's being put, I'm not seeing focusing on the real issue. What is going on now, I don't think is going to stop because now the people are realizing that even with social media, we're connecting to what seeing what happened in other places. Those people, those African countries could actually have a better opportunity to have inclusive growth, to have better healthcare, better education. Because if they have better opportunities, to me, that's part of dignity, right? Being a dignified individual. I read one of the books of Michelle Obama, and she was talking about her father not being able to, with his education, to get the right job that he could. And the day that he did, she could see in him that he was dignified. He felt like he was a human being until we get to the core of what we make people around the world feel dignified, give them the opportunity if they want to get jobs, to get education, healthcare, food security, access to water, the basic Maslow, right, theory, giving that to the people, then the people will be satisfied and they'll be able to now start looking into some other thing that they can do. When we see constitutional coup, when we see that, for example, in Gabon, they changed the constitution, I mean, the electoral code a few weeks before the election. In a previous electoral code, that was not possible. So they made changes. And guess what? The world, the Commonwealth, stayed quiet. It didn't say anything. So it's not just to come and condemn when there's a military coup, but what about constitutional coup? What about trying to prevent some of those things from happening? I am sure that a lot of these Western countries look at some of these countries as risk in 2022 December, Mr. Biden received delegates and heads of state of Africa. Five of them have election this year, and they met with Mr. Biden, and they say, "You're going to have election. Please, this time, make sure that it is free, clear, and there's no issue." Right? But it's one thing to say it. How do you make sure that the things happen exactly where democracy, which is the people that people voted, are the people that takes over that particular country? Unless all of this is put in place, all you're going to see is with this all total world, world order changing, people are seeing what's happening, and they now realize that nobody cares about them, and if they want change, they actually have to act on that change that they need.
That's an incredible explanation of what's going on, and what it really does for those people out there in the rest of the world is to look at Gabon and say, wow, here is a small country of just 2 million people, but well resourced, that are saying enough is enough and we want to take action for ourselves. Just before you go, how confident are you that this can resolve for the people instead of the institutions that have held it back for so long?
Well, the transitional government basically said that they're coming to restore strong institutions, right? Mr. Obama said when the first trip to Africa, say Africa doesn't need strong men or strong women. Africa needs strong institution. You cannot talk about democracy if you don't have the infrastructure for democracy. It's easy to come and say, let's make sure we're getting rid of coup, or let's make sure that if there's a coup, we're going to condemn. I think the Commonwealth, the African Union, the United Nations should have in some of the articles that any constitutional coup should be condemned, that anything that goes against deteriorating or when we see embezzlement and corruption, all of those things need to change. And I want to say something about some examples. In Ghana, we have Colonel Jerry Rawlings, who was a military, did a coup, and he brought a lot of changes. He brought a lot of, he got rid of a lot of corruption. And we're talking about Ghana today as an example. We're talking about Nigeria. One of the key elements of what Nigeria is today is Mr. or President or General Obasanjo. Up to today, people talk about the reform that Mr. Obasanjo did, and where Nigeria is today is partially because there was a coup that came and ended the liberty or lack of liberty, freedom, and opportunity for the Nigerians. So until opportunity are given to the locals in these countries, there will not be any unrest.
It's a powerful, powerful situation that's happening there in Gabon, where the people are looking to change their country for the best. Jean Claude Nzamba, thanks for your time today on World Series News.
Thank you for having me.